right. So it's the news that broke the gaming world out there. So let's get into it. Microsoft bought out and acquired Bethesda and ZeniMax. So, in a mind-blowing announcement, Microsoft has announced that they have acquired ZeniMax and, by proxy, Bethesda. The deal apparently cost them upwards of $7.5 billion, which is, that number still just makes me laugh and just takes my breath away for a moment. So now, even though Bethesda will officially be a part of Xbox Game Studios, it runs as its own division, maintaining leadership. And Phil Spencer made clear that, where they're like, yes, they're ours now, but they're kind of gonna still do their own thing. So it's really, really interesting. But obviously, there's a lot that plays into this. This is not just buying one company. You're telling me Bethesda came along with everything. So it was ZeniMax, Bethesda, Machine Gun, right? Those are the guys who does Wolfenstein.
Machine Games, yeah.
Machine Games, sorry. id Software, everybody, the whole Bethesda family is now under the Xbox umbrella. So, though, they were really weird about it at first, but then everyone was coming out talking about it. All the Bethesda heads, Phil Spencer came out and was talking about it as well, and Pete Hines, Todd Howard. They were like, listen, yes, they're our parent company now, but we're still rolling the same way we were doing. So, this is an acquisition under no circumstance I could have guessed. Under no circumstance did this leak. I don't know how that we got pictures of the internal Xbox leaked and controls and the naming and all that stuff was leaking, and nobody was able to leak that Bethesda and Microsoft were in talks for not just a partnership to acquire them. Like, obviously, I think this whole COVID thing kind of helped it out because they were probably doing all this stuff over video calls and Zooms. So it was very hush-hush. Nobody saw them walking around. But this is such an amazing get for Xbox. And this is obviously marketing because this announcement broke the day before pre-orders, if I was completely correct. The day before Xbox pre-orders go out. That everybody knew the pre-orders were going out to the time. You announced that you get Bethesda, ZeniMax and Bethesda. All those IPs are now under the Xbox umbrella. What did you think when you saw this? Because it caught me so off guard that I sat there and stared at it for a minute because I didn't believe it.
Yeah, I mean, at first my immediate thought was I'm like, really? Like that Bethesda, Bethesda's so big that I wouldn't have thought that they would be acquired by literally anybody. If anything, I felt like they would be acquiring people. And then as I read more and they made it clear that the structure and the leadership is all going to remain intact and that they're not suddenly going to be Microsoft being like, okay, scrap all those projects. You're going to work on this now. That's not the case. I'm like, okay, this is actually a pretty great thing. And I think both sides can really benefit from this. 7.5 bill, I see you, Microsoft. I didn't know y'all had that even to throw around. So good for you.
That's big money.
Yeah. And I guess the only question I have now is, now essentially Bethesda, and specifically Bethesda Game Studios and Obsidian, are under the same parent company, which is peculiar because then that means also we're going to have Outer Worlds and Starfield under the same parent company. We're also going to have Skyrim and Obsidian's upcoming game Avowed under the same company, which, as you know, is kind of like a first-person medieval spellcasting. It looks like Skyrim, yeah. So it's kind of a weird place where now they have kind of two teams that kind of do the same thing. And I wonder how that's going to work. And I'm like, does this make a New Vegas 2 more or less likely? I don't know, to be honest with you. But no, I thought that was really interesting that Microsoft had an interest in getting both Bethesda and Obsidian. So good for them. It's just so interesting seeing Microsoft nag up all these teams. They're snagging up everybody. But at the same time, they're not really interested in exclusives. So it's a very interesting that they're really just interested in kind of boosting Game Pass and then including as much as possible. They have that deal with EA coming. Now everything Bethesda is going to be on Game Pass. So they're trying to have as much stuff that stays on Game Pass so it doesn't have that monthly turnaround like a lot of their other third-party games.
Mm-hmm.
So the amount of things that are going to go on Game Pass and stay on Game Pass are just increasing. And it seems like that's their main focus rather than kind of building a family of studios like Sony has to release first-party exclusives. So it's a different strategy. It's obviously costing them a lot, but the returns can be astronomical if they play their cards right. I'm curious to see if, like, in a couple years, if this works out for both, and is Bethesda and Microsoft still going to be happy with each other? I don't know. So, I mean, ultimately, I think this is pretty industry shakeup, like, big. I saw a whole bunch of people being like, okay, now Sony, you have to buy all this, and you got to buy this, and you got to buy this. And it's like, I don't know if PlayStation's necessarily in the same place where they're trying to, like, buy up every single team like the way Microsoft is. They're in many ways kind of playing catch up, but at the same time establishing a new technique during this kind of Phil Spencer era.
Yeah, for sure. And this is something we've been talking about for a while, where, like, Microsoft knew prior to this new generation, prior to the series generation, that they needed to make big moves. And Game Pass was a big move. And the way they worked on exclusives, and all our exclusives day one are going to be on Game Pass and PC. They're doing all these big moves. And then they save a Titan move. And, like, hey, we now have Bethesda is under a gun. And the fact that I never have to pay... I know I pay for Game Pass. I never have to pay for a Bethesda game again, and just day one play it on Game Pass. It makes me feel better, because the last couple Bethesda things have been very messy, obviously. So Fallout 76 2 is going to be fantastic now.
76 2.
No, but it's going to be exciting, because now this is not even something we have to wait that long for. October 1st, Doom Eternal's on Game Pass. Doom Eternal is on Game Pass October 1st. And that game is, absolutely fantastic. I absolutely loved it. We played tons of it. We talked about it on here all, right at the start of the lockdown. It came out, so it was perfect. But for people who haven't been able to get it, but has Game Pass, it's going to be there. And the whole game. And from what we see, most of their first-party stuff never leaves Game Pass. And now this is first-party. So it's just absolutely crazy to see that. I'm really excited to see the backlog of things that's going to come to it. And stay on Game Pass. So it's super exciting. Like you were saying, so crazy to see that Obsidian and Bethesda, who rumors were for a long time they kind of had bad blood, or there were some issues there. But again, those people may not even be there. They even tweeted, I think someone tweeted at Obsidian, they're like, well, so you guys could technically work on a Fallout game, right? And I think Obsidian tweeted out like a, gesture or whatever it was. So I doubt that. I highly doubt we're going to get New Vegas 2 or whatever it is. They have Outer Worlds now. They have their other games. I doubt we'll see that. But you never know. With this many people, with this many teams, and with the whole Xbox army that's there, you can get a lot of cross-help, a lot of cross-company games now. And it's just incredible to think. But my goodness, 7.5. I keep looking at that number. That's more than what Disney paid for Star Wars. And it's just... And Star Wars is Star Wars, guys. Despite what you think of the movies, that's a huge licensing. That's almost, I think, double what Disney paid. Disney, So it's absolutely ridiculous. But it's such an exciting time, because that pushed me to be like, oh, I got to get an Xbox Reserve tomorrow. When this news broke, immediately I was like, I got to get an Xbox Series pre-order tomorrow. And that's what really pushed me to the point where I was like, I need that. Because with those two, I will be more than set for the next couple years on everything I need.
And kind of one aspect of Microsoft's strategy that's pretty much going underlooked, and I'm not sure if this is a record at this point, but they're about to be one of the first, at least that I've noticed, publishers or game makers able to get 4 generations of compatibility on a machine.
Yeah, it's gonna be
a lot of them. I'm trying to think. Like Nintendo hasn't really done that. Not that many generations. They've had Virtual Console, if you want to count that. But and then PlayStation certainly has. The closest that they've gotten was the PlayStation 3. Obviously, that played 1, 2, and 3. But obviously, they took that out later. But going forward to Xbox, I mean, the Xbox Series X will be able to play original Xbox games. Now, again, keep in mind limited compatibility. There are lists online, but there are all the major Xbox games you'll be able to play. Xbox 360, Xbox One, and now going forward to whatever Series X games are. So, I mean, that's worthy of, commending them for it too, is that they were able to really master backwards compatibility in a way that, and again, we're talking about putting discs into your machine, and that kind of unlocks a key. So that's worth of, worthy of commending, because not a lot of people are able to do that, and even PlayStation's made it clear that that's not something they're doing, or not necessarily that they're not interested in, but they weren't able to get that work out, at least for launch. And hey, Microsoft was. So with all the critiques that you can have from Microsoft, they were able to, and on top of Game Pass and all these different things, master backwards compatibility.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a Xbox, again, that's what I'm saying. Xbox is just really set up for, success. Will they outbeat Sony? I don't know, but I don't think that's what they want to do. They obviously want to outbeat what they did with Xbox One, and I think they're more than set up for that, and I think pre-orders speak that. One thing we haven't talked about exactly is, what does this mean for Bethesda games coming to PlayStation systems?
Exclusivity,
and it's a mix, because we still have 2 exclusive PlayStation console games from Bethesda, which is Deathloop and Ghostwire, I think, right?
Ghostwire Tokyo?
Yeah.
That's, yeah.
And Deathloop, which are console exclusives, which is weird, because now they're going to fall under Xbox to be published. And it's not the first time Xbox has published stuff on Sony. Minecraft is on there. The other Minecraft Dungeons is on there. So it's not like the wildest thing to see them do that. I don't know what that means going forward. I do not see under any circumstance that Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be a console exclusive to Xbox.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Bethesda's going to be like, listen, look at the numbers. Look at what we sell on Skyrim. Every time we release it on every microwave and fridge, we need this on PlayStation as well. It's same with Fallout. I do see some exclusives coming to it, so, if there ever is another Dishonored, that would probably be smart to keep it exclusive. I just think the big guys, Starfield, I'm like mixed, where I'm like, that would be smart. If you can make it look really good and keep that exclusive, would be smart. But like, Elder Scrolls is just such an IP where you want that everywhere, and people are going to buy it. Same with Fallout, keep it everywhere, and you're going to buy it. And they really talked about it, saying they're going to look at it a case by case. So we're going to see Microsoft Bethesda games on PlayStation systems. Which ones? We have to wait and see. Like they said, case by case, and we're probably going to keep seeing them coming to Switch. Microsoft and Switch and Nintendo have had a good partnership for a while. We got Cuphead over there and all these other things, even though that's not a first party. But Ori, which is Xbox, is over there. Minecraft is over there. Doom is over there. Doom Eternal is supposed to come over there at some point. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on with that one, because the other Doom could barely run on it, so I don't know what's going on with Doom Eternal. But we never got like the Fallout 4 port that was rumored for a long time. 76 was obviously could not run on Switch. It couldn't run on, it couldn't run on consoles now, but so it's such a weird time, and unfortunately we don't have the answers. And they're being smart with the marketing. They're smart with their PR. That's one thing Microsoft and the Bethesda guys can sometimes control their tongue, where they're like, it's a case by case thing. We'll see when we get there.
Yeah, if I had to make a guess, I doubt this affects exclusivity at all. For 2 reasons. One thing, obviously, Bethesda has full control of the creative and general development side, and they don't seem like they're necessarily going to be in a position to be financed by Microsoft as well. So I don't see why in any position that's going to be something they make that call for. Also, it doesn't seem that Microsoft has even made that demand of their own teams, to be honest. Again, they seem like we just want to boost our own offerings, not necessarily control where other people play things. And Phil Spencer said that many times. He wants people to play what they want, whenever they want, wherever they want. And I think that's just going to trickle down to Bethesda. And that's why I think they're a great fit, is that Bethesda's known for putting everything everywhere and allowing people to play. If anything, I see maybe exclusive DLC type drops and stuff like that. So if there's some kind of online thing where it's like, we're gonna add different kind of suits for Fallout or something like that, whatever the next Fallout game is, maybe Xbox gets that first, for example. But generally speaking, I think everybody, exclusivity in Xbox, it doesn't seem like something that they're particularly interested in. And if anything, it's probably going to take the form of a timed exclusive.
Yeah, and again, this is something that's been, even prior to this, I mean, remember, there was the conversations they had, even though they ignore it now, but that at one point they were going to even discuss putting Halo on PlayStation. And if they were going to do that with that title, they're going to do that with something it's weird, because even though Bethesda is now Xbox, I'm never going to see it that way because of how independently they're going to act.
Yeah.
So, it's interesting. And everyone asking, who is Sony going to buy out? For Sony to make a purchase of this size, it would have to be a major company, and none of those companies are for sale. I don't know how they were able to convince. Well, I mean, 7.5 billion is an easy way to convince somebody to sell the company, but I don't think Sony needs to. They're in bed with so many people.
Yeah, they keep throwing around Sega. They keep throwing around. I see.
They keep throwing around Sega. What are they gonna do with Sega?
Again, we love. We love. I know you love Sega, but
I know I love Sega. I got my little Sonic hat right here.
In 2020.
What? I mean, I'm surprised Nintendo hasn't purchased Sega. And,
that would make sense.
But they're very in bed together, and they don't control games. Sony has really gotten back into bed with Square. I mean, console exclusive, way over there. So it's like, I don't think they need to, because they have these really solid relationships with these games to get console exclusives. I mean, it would almost even made more sense if Sony bought Bethesda, because they had these two big exclusives which are still being published. So it's just like, I don't think Sony needs to. I know everyone's jumping to Konami. Sony does not want to buy Konami's day spas, all right? I get them, people wanting the IP, but Konami's just not releasing the IP. I mean,
Konami's a bigger company than I think a lot of people understand.
Yeah, I understand they're thinking they're not going anywhere just because, as of yesterday or the day before, Konami just republished Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2 on PC. So they're not selling the IP. They may be in bed with this rumored Silent Hill game that's not real, obviously, because it hasn't been hasn't come to fruition. Nothing's leaked. Same with the whole Metal Gear Solid 1 remake. That's obviously not going to be a thing because they just published Metal Gear Solid 1. So that's what that renewed license was. So it's just, who else is there to buy that's available to be purchased? There's no one. Nobody's selling right now. So why would they sell? But again, the Bethesda one is just such a weird stretch that this has to be in talks for so long to convince these people to give up, and not even give up too much, because they're really just there under the umbrella. They're going to roll the same way they've been rolling. So it's such a weird situation, and I don't think Sony's going to come back with a purchase.
Yeah, I mean, if PlayStation was sitting there and they're like, we saw that Xbox bought Bethesda, we need to outdo them. The problem is, when you jump to Bethesda level and you're talking about, $7.5 billion, acquisitions, that puts you, you're going to have to buy something like a Square Enix. You're going to have to probably buy something like an EA. And those are just astronomically big, super expensive companies that is just so out of the range of literally anyone.
And they're also just not...
They'd be burning money for nothing.
They're not in trouble, Like, if EA was in trouble and then Sony wants to come in and scoop up, from our knowledge, Bethesda was not in trouble. Like, we don't know that.
These are all healthy companies for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, Sony's just... And then the size of the company. I mean, Xbox now has, 23 first-party studios, including with everybody Bethesda brought over.
I think so.
I mean, no one is of that size. THQ Nordic, they're gonna buy. Sony's not gonna buy THQ Nordic, guys. Come on. So it's SpongeBob and all those, and just, they're not gonna do it because that company's straight up just always gonna release games everywhere. So who knows if Sony will come back with anything? I doubt it. They may do a purchase later on, but it won't be of that size. Bluepoint is a good guess. I don't know what's going on that they have not. Bluepoint might just not want to be purchased, but Bluepoint at this point is pretty much a first-party studio for them.
Yeah,